Welcome back, everybody, to the podcast Under Your Bed. I'm your host, CJ, and this is your hostess, Taylor.
Hey, guys.
We have... Oh, my... I don't know if this is a good one. This is insane today. And I'm stoked because it's our first zombie flick. Right? Am I wrong?
No, we did Shaun of the Dead. How easily
Oh my god,
forget.
we did Shaun of the Dead. Our second zombie flick.
Oh my god.
Flick. I'm always excited for a zombie flick, though. So
always.
We are going to be reviewing Dead Alive for You, aka Brain Dead. I don't know why it's got two titles. You tell me, Taylor. I'm sure there's a reason.
You really put me on the spot with that one. Probably something I should have researched ahead of time. I think it's just one of those weird cases where like it was released under one name in New Zealand and like another one for like American audiences, but fully
translated to
could
America.
Be wrong. Could fully be wrong about that. Don't quote me on it.
Anyways, it's a 1992 zombie flick written and directed by Peter Jackson. Yes, you heard that correctly, Peter Jackson. I don't know, this was an interesting start to a career. So, let's break it down, Taylor. What do we got?
So this film is essentially about main character who's really under his mother's thumb, and Lionel, our protagonist, his world is really turned upside down after his mother is bitten by a Samaritan? Do you call it? Is that right? Is that
Sumatran or
Samaritan rat?
A vicious rat that,
is a voodoo, quote unquote, like a voodoo purposed zombie rat.
The product of a rat and a monkey fucking.
It really does look like that, to be honest. But yeah,
well, that's what they said in the movie. That's not a joke.
This is Peter Jackson's third film, which is really wild. It really does make sense when you kind of look at his whole career, but I think if you're somebody who just knows him from Lord of the Rings, this is pretty shocking in a way. But actually,
exactly.
A ton of this team ended up on different projects of his. His editor did The Frighteners. He's got who else? His co-writer was part of Lord of the Rings. Tons of stuff where it's just really cool to see so early in his career that he was able to get back with these people and have them be a part of his more well-known quote unquote films.
Right. And it's funny watching it because when you first are
exploring
this world he's built, it almost reads as a B zombie flick.
Oh yeah.
But the farther and farther you go, you're whoa, this clearly had to have had some funding and they put a lot of effort into the effects and it's a wild ride, and clearly a lot of good producing went into this to pull it off. So you can see how later Peter Jackson can create 3-hour films, and a whole series of them nonetheless, right?
So I will full disclosure, I actually really appreciate the lower budget aspect and how they had to maneuver around that versus something like Lord of the Rings with this ungodly amount of money and how much of it. And I do appreciate it. I think they tried to do it practical as much as they could, but with any big studio production, it's a CGI city. It always is. It just has to be for reasons. But I love seeing something like this and being this is what somebody can do when they don't have that kind of budget. And what does that look like?
Yes. And they went all out. I think at the time, at least, this film must have broken the record for the most amount of blood in a flick.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, it clearly shows.
Even in the one scene, which we'll obviously deep dive. I think that one scene alone was how. I think I read something where it was
probably accounted for half of the blood in the movie. At least.
At least it's crazy.
So break this down a little for us. Yeah. Acting, directing, story. What?
Yeah. So
what's the highs? What are the lows?
To be fully honest with the cast, it's not people that I think most Americans are going to be really familiar with. To be honest, so I'm going to kind of gloss over a little bit of that today. Other than there's a few characters that again we've seen in other Peter Jackson movies, like Father
Mhm.
Magruder was in The Frighteners. The guy who played Void was in Lord of the Rings. Like, so you get like some of those crossovers. Oh, and Vera the mom also was in Lord of the Rings, which I was like, what the hell? I did not recall that at all.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, but weirdly, like our main characters, Lionel, which is Timothy Blaine, and Paquita, which is Diana. I am so gonna just butcher this. Penalver. Penalver?
You got me.
God, I'm
let you
so
take that.
sorry. I did it dirty. I apologize. She's a great actress. That's just offensive. But honestly, like they didn't have
Peñalver.
they didn't have like huge careers after this, which is pretty surprising. But again, as you touched on, writing, directing by Peter Jackson. And again, we've seen some of these other folks before, but it's just not, it's shocking because this is such like a feat, technically speaking, and with the acting, that like I'm really surprised that a lot of these people didn't do bigger things moving forward.
Yeah. So going into this movie, you got to keep in mind that it is a comedy. It's a zombie comedy film, and it becomes very apparent very quickly that that's what you're watching. And I mean,
immediately, I would say.
I think the sole purpose of this movie is to gross you out, and I think literally in Swedish showings, they handed out barf bags to the audience walking into the movie because
they can't handle it.
Those Swedes have a weak stomach. I was getting a little nauseated myself once or twice. Just
give me a better moment.
This really, really pushes the line of like what you can put on screen
for sure. But it's so the gross out effects are so gross, but the gore effects are weirdly so over the top that I think it moves beyond being like, oh my God, I'm terrified, because it's so outlandish that you're like, how can you not laugh?
Yes, I would not call this like a scary horror film, but it's definitely disgusting.
Yes.
That's what it goes for. So I forgot where I was going with this.
On that, actually, I got this. So on that, what on the scare factor for monsters under your bed? This has got to be such a weird one to rate in both categories. But what's your scare factor? Your monsters under the bed for this one?
I'm going to give this a 3 just for disgust factor.
Wow.
Because
okay.
I know it's not scary. Like there was maybe one jump scare where I was like, oh, but it's more of like a disclaimer, if you will, in terms of like do not watch this unless you have a strong stomach, because you ain't gonna like it.
No.
And yourself, Taylor, what are you calling it?
I mean, like, I think because it is so over the top, disgusting, and outrageous, and gory, and gratuitous in all the ways that I love, I'm going to have to give this like a 2, because like the simple fact is it is not scary. It isn't. It's so funny. Like there were so many times where I was like crying. Like I was laughing so hard because it was so ridiculous. But I don't think that justifies then giving it a 1, because like it is so gross that like I have to give it at least that little extra boost, you know.
Yeah. I think we're kind of on the same page of what the movie's about. You know, overall rating, where are you landing on this one? Because this is a weird one. It's not like technically that phenomenal of a movie. Like the cinematography and editing's just like there's nothing special to it. Some of it's fun and playful, but I mean, it seems like they mostly serve the purpose of showing you zombies ripping each other apart. So
okay, this is a genuine struggle because of exactly what you laid out. Because I completely agree with you. I don't think it's like necessarily the most compelling story. There's certain elements to it that we'll get into later that like make it kind of like above your basic zombie movie, and like there's some cool stuff going on in there, but like it isn't like crazy innovative, except the gore is so fucking innovative. It is so like the effects they pull off, and they're all practical. I have to, even though like I don't think film-wise I would give this a 3, but I think I have to give it a 3 because the effects are so good. It feels like slander to give it less than a 3 because of the effects. How about you?
Right. I'm a little torn.
It's hard.
I'm gonna land on a
one.
3, and I'm actually borderline 4 because
Damn!
this movie knows what it's trying to be. It's not trying to be anything else. And obviously Peter Jackson nailed what it is.
Mhm.
There's a couple of moments where I'm like, why did we do that with the music? Or why, believe it or not, I felt like 1 or 2 scenes jumped the shark, if it's possible in this movie.
Is it?
But
It's like, is that possible?
we'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. But you know, and then also because of it being just a staple in the horror genre, I think anybody that likes classic horror flicks and just zombie movies in general has to watch this movie at some point.
Totally
So
agree.
that's where I'm like 3 pushing 4, just for almost nostalgia or just sheer respect for having the balls to go make this movie.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. It is really funny, but like I think it'd be just criminal to give it anything less than that. So kind of getting into then more, I know we've touched on a few things, but some more of like our spoiler-free topics. Like as we've noted, the gore in this is just, oh my God. Like I literally struggle to express how much I love the gore in this movie.
I think
what was your feeling?
we got to reveal just a couple things. It's not going to spoil anything. I mean, there's some fantastic zombies in this, like, you know, skulls that are on spines, like chasing people through houses, and like baby zombies and stuff. So there's just so much going on, and there are. I mean, I don't know what the total zombie count, but there's got to be at least like 100 zombies.
I couldn't even fathom, because once you get to the end, it's so just fun. Mayhem at the end.
Yeah. And honestly, the comedy still stands up to this day. You know, this movie's 30 years old, and I was dying through a whole lot of it. You know, some of it's probably because of things that are dated, but some of it's also because the comedy's just there and is as good as ever.
Oh, the practical effects hold up really well too, and this is why I'm such a strong advocate of like that's the way it should go down, because like those CGI effects age out quickly and poorly. Where like when you've got something that's clearly made, some of it's a bit more ridiculous than other parts, but it still looks solid. I'd say most of it looks very good today still. There's a few that have not aged as well.
Right, 100%. Yeah, there's, you know, some opening like airplane scenes and things where those effects with models just clearly are dated. But you're right, where the gore still stands. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there were any sort of CGI effects in this at all. Everything was
didn't look
screen
like it.
Practical.
Yeah.
And obviously at 92, that was kind of all like new territory anyways for graphic effects. So,
and limited budget and all that. They're not going to be able to afford whatever was out there probably at the time anyway. So, you know, which I think is good. I think is good.
Well, what's the bottom line, Taylor? People go see it or not?
Oh my God, yes. Okay, so here's my thing is I am just surprised at how many people I know that love horror movies that have not seen this movie, which is shocking to me. Like, but I will preface this recommendation with saying, like, if you're somebody who gets super grossed out easy, you are going to struggle bust through this movie. And I will say, I think most of that is in the first half versus the second half, which is a more gore heavy. But if you struggle with any of that kind of stuff, like if you don't want to see someone's face get ripped off, like you're going to struggle with this. But it's so funny to me that I think it really cancels out anything that would be like horrifying or disturbing then, like, or whatever.
To me, it's like the amount of like pus and oozing.
Oh, that
and,
is
like...
no, don't talk about it. I like can't look at custard the same way. You know what? All right, full disclosure. Yesterday at work, I was eating like one of those Chobani Greek yogurt things, and it's like a key lime flavor, so it kind of is like yellowy green or whatever. And I was like eating it. I like put it up to my mouth, and I'm like, oh my God. Because like all I could think about was like, because we were going to film this and it's all I could think about. And I was like, it was a struggle to get through that meal, man. To be honest.
There's just certain things that I probably won't be eating anymore. But I probably won't be eating while watching this movie again. Definitely, like you said, this is not going to be for everybody. but this is a fun one that you could revisit like every Halloween
Absolutely.
with a select group of friends.
Yes.
And is a must watch staple of the horror genre. So go watch it.
As long as you have a strong stomach. That's the preface.
Indeed. All right, everybody. So that concludes our spoiler-free section of the episode. Stay tuned, and we got a themed drink for you as always, and then our deep dive critique.
See you guys.
Welcome to the podcast Under Your Bed. There'll be drinks, critique, and perhaps a few murders. You're all invited, but once the podcast has begun, there's no way out. The ghosts are waiting, so won't you join me for the podcast Under Your Bed?
Oh, man.
Great.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, that one hurt a little.
That hurt my ears a little. Thanks, Taylor.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, welcome back. You've come to expect it. We're going to burst your eardrums, and hopefully there's less blood than was in this movie.
Oh, my God. Not possible. Yeah, that would have to be possible because you couldn't even succeed what they did there. It's just not possible. That is not possible.
Taylor,
All
what are
right.
we drinking with, heaven forbid, this zombie?
Yes, so we are drinking what they label a raspberry mimosa from Delish, and full disclosure, this drink is like you get a nice sugar rim on it. You've got some raspberry sorbet. You've got some little raspberries to garnish on top, and some Chambord. The recipe calls for sparkling Moscato. However, I have to say, no shade, no tea to anybody who likes Moscato, but I have not drank that. I haven't drank that since like my early 20s, and I don't even think I liked it then. So I'm sorry. I replaced it with a brut, nice dry champagne, and I think it's all the better for it. So my personal recommendation is sub that out unless you're someone who loves a sweet drink, which I do not.
Moscato may be more disgusting than this movie. We
yes, 100%. Yes, 100%. But yeah, if you're watching on the old YouTube, and apologies if you are watching on YouTube, I apologize. I'm gonna have my screen situation rectified by next episode, so I'm coming in and out. But if you're saying you get a nice bloody color and you get some nice chunks at the top, and it is really yummy.
Yeah. So Taylor, I'm sorry. I chose actually straight vodka to cleanse my soul of the horror graphic shit show I saw. And I'm actually not even drinking it. I'm pouring it straight into my eyes. Hopefully that just washes the sight of this movie away.
You'll never be
I'll
clean
never
again.
be clean again. Hopefully it knocks some of those new memories out, but we shall
best
see.
of luck. You're gonna need a lot of vodka for that.
I did chill it, I guess. So. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, guys. There we go. Cheers, guys. All right.
We have a plot review for you. Here is the full movie in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We open with an exploration team carrying a wild jungle rat.
Ew.
A local tribe tell the men to leave it, but they make a run for their car and their group. Their getaway is halted as soon as one man is bit by the rat. They attempt to stop the spread of infection by cutting off his arm, proceed to cut his other arm, and eventually his head off when they discover additional bites. They then proceed to deliver this rat, and it's shipped off to a Wellington zoo in New Zealand. In Wellington, we meet a shopkeeper and protagonist, Paquita, who's in search of love. Paquita's grandmother gives her a tarot card reading and tells her romance is coming soon. And in walks Lionel, our other protagonist. We then get a glimpse into Lionel's life, which is completely dominated by his mother, Vera.
Ew.
Paquita elects to drop off some groceries to Lionel and gets him to ask him on a date. A sight that greatly upsets Lionel's mother.
It's a creepy vibe.
Lionel and Paquita enjoyed their date at the zoo, and Lionel discusses a contributing factor of his mommy issues. His father died, saving him from drowning on a beach. The day continues on until the rat from earlier bites Vera, who is stalking their date.
She really is. It's so creepy.
That mother's God. It's not mommy issues. It's like child issues. I don't know.
Yeah, right. It's a little both.
Issues.
Yeah.
Later that evening, Paquita visits Lionel, and they eventually engage in some hanky-panky.
Wow, wow,
All the
wow.
while, Vera begins to deteriorate.
Oh, God. Understatement.
From said rat bite. Yeah, literally falling apart. Despite looking half dead, Vera refuses medical assistance so she can have breakfast with the Mathesons from the Ladies' Welfare League. During the meal, Vera literally begins to fall apart. Later, Paquita goes to the house to warn Lionel about dark forces her grandmother saw. And while they are talking, Vera eats Paquita's dog, then attacks her. The scuffle sends Vera down the stairs, and Nurse McTavish comes and declares Vera dead. Vera doesn't stay dead for long, however, and attacks Nurse McTavish, mostly separating her head. Clunk! Lionel tells Paquita that Vera and Nurse McTavish went to the hospital and hurries her out so he can deal with the zombie Vera and newly zombified Nurse. Lionel then decides to keep the zombies subdued through tranquilizer injections. Paquita warns Lionel of danger and gives him an amulet for protection. While speaking, Vera awakens and heads to the shop, but she's cut short by a trolley and declared dead once more.
That trolley incident is something else.
I like the trolley.
I like it too.
After the funeral, Lionel attempts to dig up her zombie corpse, but is attacked by a group of greasers. Vera kills two of them, and the screams of the others fleeing causes Father McGruder to come to Lionel's aid. His badassery is cut short, though, when he's bit and impaled on a cemetery statue. Lionel breaks things off with Paquita so he can care for the zombie group he's been hoarding in his basement, including a new zombie baby from the Nurse McTavish and Father McGruder.
Oh, God.
Why not?
Yeah, it's a vibe.
Things get worse when Lionel's sleazy uncle Les discovers the subdued corpses and blackmails him into handing over the house and his inheritance. During a party thrown by Les, Paquita discovers the zombies and convinces Lionel these zombies aren't people that he used to know, and it's time to destroy them. They promptly inject the zombies with poison and bury the bodies.
Movie over, right?
Done.
That's it.
Go
it's
home.
over.
Their celebration is cut short, however, when Lionel realizes he injected the zombies with an animal stimulant. Oh, that's a mistake. The zombies arise, break out of the basement, and immediately attack all the partygoers. Chaos ensues, and the survivors are separated. During this, Lionel finds skeletal remains in his attic. Paquita helps a woman named Rita, and Les continues to be a creep and only help himself.
He's a dick.
The house becomes overrun with zombies, and things look bad for our survivors until Lionel enters heroically with his homemade lawnmower zombie slayer strapped to his chest. Lionel takes out the Horde, but Les and Rita are both killed. At this moment of relief, a monstrous version of Vera emerges from beneath the floor. Lionel and Paquita flee to the roof, but Vera quickly catches up. Lionel stands up to his mother and tells her he now remembers that she, in fact, drowned his father and his mistress in a bathtub.
Dun, dun, dun.
Instead of the horrific memory he had concocted of drowning, saving his life. Vera responds to this revelation by eating him, but Lionel uses the amulet to cut his way into freedom. Vera falls into the already burning home and dies. Paquita and Lionel escape and walk away hand in hand as the firefighters arrive.
Whew, take a big breath. You did it!
For a movie that's not plot heavy, it was a lot there.
I know,
Wow.
it's a weird one because the story actually isn't like super complicated, but so many things like fit together and like make it all flow that it's really hard to leave it out. So sorry.
Whew, glad I have a hefty drink to wash that one down.
Me too.
So, where does our conversation begin?
I think the opening, to be honest, because I am obsessed with the opening. So can we start there? Does that work?
All right. So this opening, of course, being like having already captured this Sumatran, however you say it,
I don't know.
Rat
Samaritan
monkey
sounds like a religious group. I feel like that's not right.
Anyways, they have this rat monkey in a cage, and they're running from like the local tribe on the island, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Wait, sorry, forgot. This is like a little fun fact that I didn't know about. The island they're supposed to be on is like the King Kong Island, and
It
that
is
was
Skull
like,
Island.
how
Yes,
cool
it
is that? But I didn't realize that in the initial
I
watch,
did not
I
catch
guess.
it either. And here's another catch that maybe you hadn't noticed. It's of course Peter Jackson, loved the original King Kong, which is why he gives the reference in the movie. But then in Peter Jackson's remake of King Kong, on board the ship that is carrying King Kong away from Skull Island, there is a crate on the ship labeled some Sumatran rat monkey.
No.
Yes, there is.
Oh my God.
That is awesome, and I have to go rewatch King Kong in order to catch that.
I guess so too, but honestly, I just kind of want to go OG if I'm gonna go watch King Kong again. Sorry, no shade to Peter Jackson, but
I think we have to throw it in our list, and that'll come after our October drive of movies there.
Oof, yeah.
But what do you love about this intro here, Taylor?
Like the intro sets it up so well for what you are about to get into. Like, I just love when they see the bite and they cut off the one arm and you're like, okay, well, it's gonna stop there. And then it zooms over to the other bite and then they cut off another arm. And then it zooms over to the head and then the splatter effect into the title card. And I was laughing so hard at this point where I was like, this is going to be such a good time. And I think like that's what sells me on this movie, is already being like, it establishes it's campy as hell. It establishes you're about to get some serious like practical effects and you're just going to have a good time. What was kind of like your opening reaction?
No, completely agree. Having when I first watched it, I was like, I didn't realize that this was a comedy.
Oh,
and so
my God,
I was like, wow, this is like really cheesy and really bad. What am I in for? and then very quickly, right? Like when they're chopping off the arms, I'm like, oh my God, this is definitely a comedy. They're like doing all these like low close-up shots of the actors, like these like totally ridiculous, distorted, reaction shots. And the like running away from the like local tribe is pretty hysterical because it's like so staged. It's like it doesn't feel like realistic at all. But also in the very opening scene, you have the two actors like running down this really steep, rugged hillside carrying this crate, and I was like, dang, you can't get actors to do that nowadays. Like,
oh no, this is a low budget affair where people are willing to do what they need to do to get the shot,
And Peter Jackson needed actors like that in this movie because, my God, by the time you get to the climatic end scenes, you have actors just doused head to toe in blood, doing the most obnoxious things I'd ever seen in a film. So you're right. It is a really fun opening to the
the story. And who doesn't like seeing like a colonist get his comeuppance as well? Like that's a good time too.
Right.
I do almost wish the guys on the plane had gotten boned a bit because they screwed over the guys with money. And I was like, it would have been nice to see some comeuppance there, but I think that probably would have detracted from how ridiculous things were about to get. Like you have to like kind of bring it down after being so high up before we like get absurd again. So it probably makes sense that there's a little lull in there.
Right. So I almost feel like we just kind of want to like breeze over it because it's like so minimal to what this movie is. But the story is fun. I think it's hysterical that it's like this guy that has to, it's almost like coming of age where he's got to like cut the umbilical cord.
No, totally.
He's got to cut the umbilical cord and get comfortable like in a relationship with a woman, and which is not his mother. And I think the ending just brings it all together in such a beautiful way of like literally the mom shoving him into her womb. And then him like physically having to like crawl out to break that bond is fucking hysterical.
No, it's funny. There are like some themes in here, which again, like I don't think they like deep dive into, but they're definitely there. Like you said, like I would absolutely call it like a theme of adulthood because I don't know how else you would explain that. But like he is an adult, but he certainly doesn't act like it. His whole life is overrun. But then they also like bring in an interesting element, which is that like these zombies are not like standard Night of the Living Dead, like they're just there to eat you. Like they kind of have some personality, which also like then makes it ethically kind of difficult to just murder them because they actually have like,
which of course is why he keeps them alive and doesn't try to destroy them. So it is fun, but I was also trying to like figure out if there was like a trend to like who becomes a zombie, like like if they had some flaw, right? Like they had like what am I trying to say? A vice, like they're partying or having sex or something. But it seems like everybody's open to being a victim in this movie, which is totally great, totally fun. Maybe speaking to none of us are perfect. We're all doomed.
I think unless you've got like a magic amulet or you've got the protection of the grandma, you're kind of fucked in this movie. Like I don't like nobody fares well except for the two of them. That's literally it.
Yes, for sure. I think so much of this movie, as you were saying, like the zombies have unique characters. This movie has just a wide range of bizarre characters. I would love to dive into some of them. Who are your favorites?
Where do you start? Honestly, actually, one of the ones I really want to hit on because I feel like it's one that can get overlooked is actually Vera. I think her actress, let me make sure I'm not saying it wrong, Elizabeth Moody, she so sells it at the top, and I don't know how much of it she did after, like it's very obviously like a prosthetic-y zombie face at that point, so I'm not actually confident on how much she did after the fact, but she totally sells her role at the beginning. And like it's a weird thing. Like I'm not saying anybody can be ridiculous and whatever, but you almost don't expect it from like an older kind of sophisticated looking woman, and she fully goes for it, where she's like so haggard, her ears are falling off, and she's in it. Like she is not backing down from that. And I have such respect for being like, I'm an older distinguished lady, I'm fully in this part. Like I loved it.
Very willing. One of my personal favorites who did not get enough screen time was the priest.
Oh my God,
yes! This priest that's like, don't fuck with the Lord, and just starts like ninja murdering zombies.
Go back to that whole scene. You need to set it correctly because it is so good. Go for it. You got it.
I mean, so like, of course, the scene being in like the cemetery where there's this gang of like greaser hooligans that start giving Lionel a hard time, like calling him a grave digger and like, oh, one of those creeps, huh?
But then he pees on a grave, so I'm like, you're a creep too. Like, what are you talking about?
Like, dark and sadistic and start beating the crap out of him. But coming to his rescue, of course, this like ninja priest shows up and like Kill Bill status or like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon status or something. Just starts like ninja kicking him, the greasers in the air,
and the
like,
zombies that start then and coming the zombies,
out, which is just super fantastic. And of course, meets his demise like impaled on top of like a gravestone or something. It's
I was a
just bummed. A wild ride. I know, it was like we just got this awesome character, and now you're offing him in the first scene. That.
Oh my God,
But, you know, it's all right. It was totally worth having him in there. And it kind of also, like, established, like, people are going to come and go. Just go along for the ride.
But I think the funniest thing to me about his character is he, like, there's definitely personality there, but, like, when they're doing the whole funeral and stuff, like, you're not getting ninja vibes by any means. So, like, when he comes out and all of a sudden starts doing high kicks, you're like, what the hell is happening? And he's in like silk pajamas with the, oh my God, sorry. I left religion a long time ago. What the hell is that thing called that they wear?
Collar, just a collar.
Is that it? Does it not have a fancy name?
A priest. I don't know. I don't think so. It's just a priest collar.
A letdown. You would think it would have a fancy name.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I don't know.
But yeah, like, so with the collar and the silk pajamas that I swear they're like purple. It's just like on point. And then even as a zombie, he has such personality where you're just like, this is awesome. Like, this guy is great.
For sure. And, you know, really all of the characters, perhaps outside of the, like, protagonists are just really extreme. Like, this like rapey Uncle Les, like just
Oh God,
really
I
intense
hated him
and
so much.
he stays around way too long. You just can't wait for him to die. And of the running gag of like getting kicked in the balls might have probably been a bit much, but at least he's getting some punishment along the way.
Deserved.
So.
It felt deserved at that point. Yeah.
But
And I do think the two of them too, like I will say it is hard to be like when you're dealing with like these zombies and you've got all these really over the top characters to be the quote unquote more straight characters. But I will say that I think both Lionel and Paquita's actors like do a really good job, and you're really on their side. They're very likable. You obviously want things to work out, and I will like we touched on it like when you and I were just having a chat, but to me, especially when we get to that park scene where he's taking the zombie baby to the park, I got such Bruce Campbell vibes from that. Like I had like an Evil Dead like flash, or like, or more like Ash versus Evil Dead in the toy store from the first episode. Like that's the vibe I got. Where the physicality, like having to be that comical, and I think he totally sold it. Where I was like, how did this guy like not do more after this? I was really surprised.
All right, very fair. However, I would say this was the scene in the movie that I felt like jumped the shark. If
I
it was
agree,
possible.
actually, I totally agree.
And the reason why is because of the world that was established, where obviously these wild things can happen, and people can like largely be ignorant of there being a zombie amongst them, but in this scene, like literally abusing the baby, and like people just kind of like staring on, like, oh my, he shouldn't do that, instead of like knocking him out or like calling the cops or something.
It was the 50s, so like different vibes. I don't know.
I get it, but something funny I read about this scene was the movie, believe it or not, came in under budget, and with the extra money, Peter Jackson decided to shoot that scene in particular, and has hence decided it's his favorite scene of the movie, the whole baby scene, which honestly it is hysterical, like this, the cart like rolling away and like trying to eat other kids and stuff, the baby
cage
zombies
over the cart, the like
metal the cage was brilliant.
Cage.
That's hysterical. But definitely it was like, I was like, okay, this is just way too far. But at that point, I guess if you've accepted this new world that's put in front of you, the rest of it is just fun. You can't like you've bought in, you've suspended your reality, your disbelief, and you're in the rut,
I fully agree, because I won't lie, like the first time on a rewatch, because it had been like maybe 10 years in between my first viewing to like rewatching it, and it was weird because when I rewatched it, I'm like, how have I not rewatched this again, because it's so good. But it was just kind of something that like, you get a list going and you start forgetting to go back and watch stuff. But
there's so much out there.
So the first time watching it, I felt like it was very misplaced and felt like a weird, not the whole thing is comedic, but that was like almost over the top. But then the second time I enjoyed it a lot more because I like already knew it was coming and it didn't feel so disjointed the second time around. And again, that's where I started to go, oh, they're going like Evil Dead over the top with this. And I really like that. But like, I agree. The first time I really struggled with, did I like it or not like it? And then I finally was like, I'm in. Like you said, I bought the ticket. I'm here. So I'm going to go with it.
Exactly. So other places that like might have been like out of place or just like totally off the wall. I felt like this like Nazi scientist guy just came out of nowhere. Oh my God,
what the hell was that about?
I mean, I imagine it's got to be like a direct throwback, like shout out to like Dr. Strangelove or whatever, because the Nazi scientist was like so similar, where in Dr. Strangelove is like he's like trying to like stop himself from like salute, giving the Hitler salute, and then of course in this, like his shirt rips open revealing the Nazi symbol.
was he saying he lost his passport or something when they like fled? He's like, I lost my passport.
Nice. I didn't catch that. But
yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if it was like, I mean, it was anything necessary in this movie. Of course not.
It was not.
But you know, just like a totally wild character that, you know, wasn't necessary by any means, but added just one more just like element to just like laugh at and go along with. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, that one was like a little like it was like I think because it was so short, I was kind of like okay, whatever. But like I definitely didn't think it like really added a lot or took away a lot. To be honest, it felt like
could have just been
if
a
it had
scientist
not
like
been there, it would have been
was there
fine.
some like greater critique about like Nazi experimentation, like creating zombies or something? You know, no, there wasn't any of that. Like it just like was this random fucking Nazi scientist.
Yeah, because they set up the whole which like also is like slightly problematic, but they set up this whole like zombie rat thing as a part of like a voodoo indigenous thing. And so like you know that Nazi experiments are not a part of that. And so you're like, okay, like I guess this guy's just here. So that was weird. And then I think for me, honestly, the other thing that I'm so torn on if I like or don't like, and this might be controversial, but is the baby zombie. Cause like, okay, don't get me wrong. I want to preface this by saying I have no issues with baby zombies. Okay. Like I thought the Dawn of the Dead remake did a good job with that as a scary thing. Yep. And then, oh my God, if somebody can fucking remember what that show was called that was on Sci-Fi and it was like a zombie. Oh, God damn. What was it called? It was some kind of zombie show and it was so over the top and stupid. And they had a baby zombie running around, but it was very funny. Like it was a joke. And so I'm not opposed to that, but I can't tell if maybe because they have an actor in a suit at some points and it's a dummy at some points, if something about that doesn't quite work for me and I find it more distracting. But I don't know. What was your thoughts on Baby Zombie?
I mean, obviously at times it was like this doll, right? Like the park scene, for example, like, and that does kind of like hurt. It like dates some of the like awesome effects in the movie.
Right.
So I understand that point, but I actually loved the baby zombie. I mean, I think this is the only movie I've seen where two zombies fuck and have a baby.
Yes, I've never seen that before.
I can't say I've seen that anywhere else. So that's amazing, hysterical. I don't know what you call it, disgusting. But
they were into it too. They were really into it.
I think the baby was, you know, probably one of my favorite. It was part of one of my favorite deaths or zombie moments. Like, oh my God, if we want to go there,
let's do it. We're already going that way. Let's do it.
When the zombie rips his way out of the woman's face. Oh my goodness, you just don't see it coming, and it's just one of these like super creative ideas. And honestly, there's so many creative zombies
too to like walk
and then like
after.
It's like animated like Pickle Rick or some shit. But what are some of your other favorite zombies or zombie deaths?
Oh my God. Okay, so let me say that this is like nearly an impossible task because as I was writing my notes and I swear I think my note said like I don't know how we're gonna rate this because it was like so you get to the end scene, which is the party scene, and obviously like zombies get released, they start eating everybody starts turning into zombies, but there is not like a basic ass death in the entire thing. Like it is wild. Like, okay, you get a couple bites, but like even those, there's typically flesh coming out. Like it's really well done. Like everybody gets like a good death, but the ones to me that I was the most like, yes, was like, okay, I love the guy whose face gets like fully peeled off in a single piece. Like
that's pretty great.
That was one looks so good. And then there's like two more that again, I was like, I just don't know for me. The other two for me were the ones where the guy is half in, half out of like, I don't know if it's a door or it's a window. I don't know what the deal was on hindsight, but he gets pulled through and it's just his bone legs with some like flesh attached to it. Yeah. And then my third favorite is the zombie who gets her head pushed into the light socket, and it like is kind of like flashing and like illuminated like a jack-o'-lantern. Those are like
Totally.
my three. How about you?
I gotta say the light bulb, like zombie
Love
stuck on the
it.
light bulb, was probably my favorite.
Looks so
I
good.
just thought it was hysterical. It looked fantastic, and something I'd never seen before. Agreed. The separated lower half and upper half of body was great. Like, you know, crawling around while the legs are walking around is just super comedic. The mother coming back as like giant monster zombie is like unbelievably outrageous. Like the big ugly
boobs.
tits and ass. And what am I looking at? My God. And
I don't even know.
The like womb ripping open. So it's just unbelievably outrageous. You know, I'll say I think my least favorite was probably the like intestine zombie with an anus. That was like the furthest point in the movie, in my opinion, where I was like, oh my God, did we really just see that? I was like, I think I need to knock back a couple vodkas and go to sleep at this point.
For real. You know, that one honestly I feel like that also wasn't my favorite, because that one came out of Void too, which was already such like a good, cool zombie that I felt like it was a little unnecessary to like do the like suck his innards out and then make that its own zombie. And then I also felt like, I don't know if you felt this way, but I felt like some of it maybe in a positive way, maybe was a nod to the thing, but to me it felt more like a bit of a ripoff with how the intestines like went up and like flipped around and stuff. And I was like, that's like a little bit, it's like a less dignified version of the thing to me. Like I didn't like it as much, you know?
Like the thing, yeah, kind of like animated vines or something like from the Grab people. It was. I mean, at that point in the movie, it's just like everything goes. So, so you know, it didn't like take me out of the movie, but I was also like, it didn't feel like zombie to me. But who is to define such things? So obviously some outrageous zombies, and there's definitely pushing the border of grossness and what's acceptable on a movie screen. Take it away, Taylor. Where did we go too far?
Okay, like, all right. I'm not somebody who typically thinks like I'm grossed out by a lot. I think like to full disclosure, the only things that really get me in movies are like fingernails. That like horrifies me. That's like the one thing where I'm like, oh my God. But other than that, like I feel like I can handle a lot. However, something I guess I didn't realize that I was more grossed out by is pus, which is a heavy fucking feature in this movie.
That's more than I cared for, that's for sure.
It's like, I don't even know, to be honest, which thing is the grossest thing, because it's like, do you pick the exploding pus in the pudding? Do you pick?
I think
was that it?
For me, that was it. Or like, yeah, the whole sequence of like the zombies like fucking, which was hysterical when it first started. Funny. I was like, oh my God, we're really going there. And there's like fucking mom eating her flesh in the soup and stuff. I was like, ugh.
Her full on ear.
Her ear, Jesus. And then when the like zombies that are fucking like literally like culminate in this like pus orgasm, like, you know, like match cut is hysterical. I can't believe they went there, but oh my God, probably the most disgusting part in my opinion.
That, and I think actually, so after, well, first off, when she gets bit, and then I have to touch on that stop motion rat. I really actually do love, like, I'm a huge fan of that kind of shit, and it's really fun and campy and a good time.
Yes.
Like,
I thought it was hysterical. That's when I was like, what the fuck am I watching? You know, at first I was like, is this just like some random like like animal at the zoo, and it's never gonna make another appearance. And I was like, oh no, that's the fucking like rat monkey.
Monkey's like leg too. I was like really sad. I was like, that's not nice. And then I was kind of glad he got his head stomped. Then I was like, that rat was an asshole. Like he deserved it. He deserved it. Yeah. I hope the monkey was okay. That said, I hope the monkey was okay.
Yeah. So like other effects that were working and not working, I thought, the like airplane stuff in the beginning, using models and the like cotton clouds or something, like, maybe at the time it was as good as it got, or just, straight throwback to like King Kong type of movie. Yeah. But, it definitely like works in terms of like the campiness of this film, but is clearly at this point dated. But I think probably the like funnest effects are probably, the lawnmower scene. What else would it?
So the lawnmower scene is absolutely classic, which again, if you opted to not watch the movie for some reason, if you're like, that's too gross, I just want to hear him talk about it, is when Lionel straps the lawnmower to his chest and he literally like runs through this horde of zombies, and it is limbs, guts, blood everywhere all the time. Like insane. So much fun. So that was awesome. I also really like the whole Nurse McTavish, like, when she gets killed, her head gets mostly separated from her neck, which continues to play into the whole
falling backward
movie.
Yeah. Maybe that's where Quentin Tarantino drew inspiration for Sin City. What when the characters like
Miho cuts who does. Does Miho,
when the
is she the one who cuts Bellissimo del Toro's throat?
Yeah.
And it's like cat, and then
and then he's talking in the car,
really gruff. Yeah,
exactly. I don't know. Maybe that's where that inspiration came from.
Oh, that's fun. I never even thought about that.
This stick is really funny, and I thought Peter Jackson did a great job of like running with that one. Obviously that lawnmower scene. I think I read was they were pumping blood out of that effect at like 5 gallons per
minute.
Second.
It was like a second?
Yeah, I literally think it was per second, because per minute that's not that much.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, that'd be a long time.
There's a lot of blood. I mean, that's insane amount of blood. I like there were a couple close-ups of it where I was like, oh, that's like clearly like coming out of a tube, like where it's kind of a stream of blood instead of like sprays. But who gives a fuck? It was hysterical.
No, you're so into it at that point and that then, like it doesn't matter.
And then the damn Scooby-Doo legs, like he can't run on the.
Oh my god! Yeah, he's like stuck on. It's like a treadmill, like
blood all over the floor is hysterical. And then the like hockey puck of a head like sliding around the floor is super funny.
And then the one that tries to bite it, I think Paquita, but it's actually dentures and they come off and like.
Oh my god! Yes.
How much fun is that? Like.
Yeah. So, a movie where, like, anybody that's ever wanted to make a horror flick would just love to produce this and direct this. It was, like, every, like, horror director's dream to make something just hysterical and outrageous like this. Like,
it's perfect in a way. Like, even with the flaws we talked about, or for us, what we deem as not our favorite things, like, it's amazing.
Did you know Peter Jackson had a cameo?
I feel really dumb because I read that and then went, what? And then like when
I didn't catch it. No,
when we do these episodes, I will watch.
It was 30 years ago. I don't remember what he looked like then.
Right. I guess he actually, to be fair, he looked like a lot, obviously as one, and I feel the same way, a lot slimmer and a lot younger a couple years ago. So like, I guess like I just didn't catch it, but it's just funny because I watch these movies like 2, 3, maybe 4 times when we do these episodes. And then I'm like, how do I miss these massive things? Like the fact that Peter Jackson is the morgue assistant, which also, can we just touch on like how outrageous that morgue scene is where like the fluids are pumping through Vera and the eyes are like pumping out. And like, it was so funny when they just like pop them back in. Like,
yes.
Like,
popping them back in, pushing them back in. Definitely going all out on all of those effects is just too much fun.
Oh yeah, I just feel like they knew what they were doing and they're like, we're just fully gonna go for it. And I do think it shows like with his practical effects, like his studio that did, if you're familiar with Black Sheep, which is another New Zealand film, it is from Peter Jackson's studio, and some of that practical effect work is just as outrageous as this movie. And I appreciate that that was something he never lost, even though he became like obviously like a very big Hollywood star now. It's cool that he still has like those roots.
Yeah. I like it. That is, awesome. Obviously, something would come of this movie that was long lasting, right? And in order to pull off all of those practical effects, it took a team that was dedicated and skilled and creative, and
yeah, but then to just continue that like is such a cool little legacy to be like, I didn't lose that root in horror, like I'm gonna continue that on.
Yeah, I love it. It's almost like like Lucas Studios, same thing where they did a whole like Lucas effects, basically the effects from the original Star Wars movies. They just started like expanding on that, and like they literally started inventing effects to be used on their movies, which have percolated through the whole of industry. So it's really cool to see studios pop up like that, basically like people that are like-minded trying to push the envelope of what's possible. So
absolutely. Yeah, well, before we get into kind of our wrap-up section, I was curious what your thoughts are on when I rewatched this, I had completely forgotten the fact that it's set in the 50s. Do you have any like thoughts of like maybe why they did that or what the rationale was? I certainly appreciate how good the costumes and the effects of like even the old school trolley were, but I was kind of like, oh, I didn't remember this, and then I was kind of like, well, why did they do this? Not that I'm mad about it, but I was just kind of curious.
I think a couple things come to mind. One is like lending itself to the campiness. If you set it in an older time, you expect the acting to be worse, and so or like different, right? So you can kind of play up the like campiness of the acting to where it's like kind of fits like what the cinema was like, at an earlier time. But then also like I think part of this like quintessential nostalgic like town that's like quiet and quaint, and then all of a sudden ravished by zombies plays into this like idyllic 50s narrative. And then also that allows you to introduce some of the characters like Nazi scientists, right? Right after the war, of course. And then also like the greasers, So it's kind of, I think that's just, hey, I want a Nazi scientist and I want some like greasers and that get murdered and turned into zombies.
And I want a 50s aesthetic, I guess, because it definitely has that look, obviously, because everything is set around that. But
something that we like loosely touched on that I do want to talk more about is the cinematography and lighting.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God,
it wasn't like there was anything like phenomenal happening here, but a couple just like interesting things. Like one, I feel like they shot the whole thing on one wide angle lens. Like there's a warpo zoom at one point.
With her heading toward the mirror thing. Is that the one you're talking about? I thought that was more a fisheye lens, actually.
I thought it was on Lionel when he like discovers the zombies in the basement or like alive or something. I can't recall the exact scene, but that was the only moment where I was like, that's clearly like a zoom lens instead of like some fixed wide angle lens. So I just thought it was interesting that the entire movie, like being low budget, was shot on like one lens, and then it was like entirely handheld, but they did a really good job of like creating movement and really like the camera was constantly moving and had. But
it never was like the jumpy, shaky.
And at times I was like trying to figure out like, oh, is this just like really like fluid movement of a jib, or is this actually all handheld? And it's, I don't think they did anything they didn't do any like wild camera moves that would clearly have to have been done through a jib or any other sort of camera mount.
What
But
about that one with Paquita? Do you know what I mean? Is that like a fisheye? Is that like a fisheye lens, or what was that?
I don't recall the moment
she's like
you're
running
talking
towards.
about.
It looks like it looks distorted and it's confusing, but then you realize she's running toward a mirror, and it's like kind of that angle comes into they kind of like meet. And I was like kind of curious because that was again like one of those only instances where like, oh, it looks different right now compared to what we've been looking at.
Yeah, I don't recall, unfortunately, so I'll have to go back and maybe we can touch on it in social. So that we'll check that out. I thought they had some fun with lighting, but used it pretty limited, and only in the basement scenes where they really had this like zombie horror house with like
wasn't he standing at the
green
top?
lighting, blue
Yeah.
lighting, yeah. And then, of course, there was like a fun, like heroic entrance with the lawnmower, where it's like this glowing backlit,
Yes, I liked that.
low angle shot. It was pretty fun. But outside of a couple of like fun moments like that, it's not like they did anything super above and beyond. One more weird thing I noticed, and tell me if this is just because of how I streamed it. I think I watched this on I paid for it on YouTube, or maybe it was free.
It was free on YouTube. Thank you,
Yeah,
YouTube. I don't know how long it'll stay on there, but thank you, YouTube.
The color grade kept like randomly changing in the middle of shots. Like I was like, did they film on different film stocks but then it would happen in the middle of a take. So
I think it might be bad YouTube quality.
It's got to be. But I mean, this was like dramatic. So I want to know if anybody else out there like has seen this, or if it's just like how I watched it.
I think I streamed it the first time and didn't notice it, and then I think I watched it on YouTube to like clean up my notes, and I'm pretty sure that I didn't notice that. So so maybe I'm not the best judge, but I think it might have been a YouTube issue upload versus like the actual film. I think, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, because the first time I saw it was like the beginning. I was like, wow, this is like really cheap, because in the opening scene running from the tribe was like they cut to a new shot and it was like a totally different film stock, looked at different color grade, and I was like, what's happening here? And I couldn't figure out a pattern, and so I look forward to figuring out what that is about.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you think, Taylor? What are your last thoughts on this movie?
I mean, I think it's clear from the way we've talked about this. This is such a fun movie. It's so much fun. As long as you can stomach some pus, and I mean that, like, I'm not even trying to be like funny about it. Like,
if you can stomach an zombies fucking, a baby ripping through skulls, and pus exploding all over the wall,
okay,
then
well, when
you're
you put
fine.
it that way, but like, actually, the Vera's pussing wound when she first gets bit is actually probably one of the nastiest, where they're like dabbing into it and it's like bone and pus, and I'm like, girl, what are you doing? Like, no like league is worth whatever's happening to your arm. Not that I think it would have made a difference at that point, but still. But like, again, I think from the way we're talking about it, it's very clear this is a great time. It's a great movie. It is so much fun to see a well-established director's not like debut, but this is like his third movie. So it's like, it's so cool to see like somebody taking a limited budget and running the hell out of it. And everybody clearly was in it, enjoying what they were doing, fully fucking committed, like to how outrageous it was going. And like, I respect a movie that goes balls deep into being like, we're going to be as wild as we can. And so like, for me, that sells it all. The practical effects are still fucking great. And that, again, huge selling point for me. So I fully endorse this movie. I fully recommend watching this movie. It's a good time. You're going to have a laugh. So how about for you? What are your like final thoughts?
100% agree. I think it's a staple of the zombie genre, the horror genre. And I think if you're going to make a lower budget movie, leaning into the campiness of it forgives a lot of the, places where you can't spend a lot of time and effort on, such as cinematography, editing, acting, is pretty debatable in this movie.
I love it, but I get it.
Yeah, but it is like, you know, an intentionally campy vibe, so you don't need these like stellar performances in certain areas. You know, and basically throughout, the campiness forgives a lot of the shortcomings. And at the end of the day, they put the money where it counts, which is in the effects, which is what the movie was all about. So
Yes.
go watch this movie. It's something you will not forget.
No, and again, I say this: if you're a fan,
No matter how much vodka you pour in your eyeballs.
If you're a fan of custard and you want to keep eating it, I highly suggest you never fucking watch this movie. So I just want to say that
is a very fair choice.
But yeah, I think coming up, guys, we are now at this point we are heading into our like October sprint where we are going to be putting out. I'm so excited. We are putting out an episode a week, plus a bonus episode, maybe 2 bonus episodes. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, after that, like we've kind of got October set, but if you guys have recommendations, if there's things you guys want us to cover, or games you want us to play or anything, hit us up on our socials, hit us up under podunderyourbed@gmail.com. Go to, honestly, we'll check all the messages. So whatever you guys send our way, we're checking it out.
Let us know your thoughts on Dead Alive.
Yes, please.
And if you have an answer to any of the lingering questions that were here, you know, why did it have 2 titles? You know,
some of the
fill us
lighting
in.
issues.
We would love to know. Yes. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you,
we
guys.
look forward to seeing you again.
Can't wait. October, baby. We're here.